An ordinary house in Tarsus, Turkey, was suddenly sealed off by police. The street was closed, special teams arrived, and behind those walls, they started digging. For months, no one was told why, no official explanation, only rumors, treasure, ancient secrets, something that was never supposed to be found. But the strangest part was not what might have been underground. It was the silence. What was hidden? The Tarsus Mystery Excavation. In 2016, in the quiet district of Tarsus, Mersin, an ordinary home became the center of a national mystery. Without warning, police blocked the street, special operations teams entered the property, and a secret excavation began inside the house. At first, neighbors thought it would last a day, then a week. But the digging continued for months. No clear statement was given. No official explanation ever satisfied the public. As the silence grew, so did the rumors. Some believed there was hidden gold buried beneath the house. Others said it was connected to ancient history. Some even whispered about intelligence operations and something far bigger than anyone expected. But what made the story unforgettable was not only what might have been underground. It was how determined everyone seemed to avoid saying what it really was. In 2016, in the district of Tarsus, Mersin, life moved quietly. It was the kind of neighborhood where people knew each other by name. Children played in the same streets every afternoon. Shop owners recognized familiar faces. Nothing about the area suggested that it would soon become the center of one of Turkey's strangest, unsolved mysteries. The house stood on an ordinary street. It was not large, it was not hidden. From the outside, it looked like every other modest home nearby. Simple walls, a small entrance, and the kind of silence that never attracts attention. For years, people passed by without a second thought. It belonged to an elderly woman who had lived there for a long time. She was known in the neighborhood, but not in any unusual way. There was no public reason for anyone to believe her house would one day be surrounded by police. And yet, that is exactly what happened. One morning, residents noticed something unusual. Police vehicles had entered the street. Officers were standing near the house. The movement was quiet but impossible to ignore. At first, neighbors assumed it was something temporary, maybe a legal issue, a private dispute, a routine investigation that would be over by the end of the day. But the officers did not leave. More arrived. The street became harder to access. People were asked to stay away. Questions began spreading faster than answers. Why this house? No one seemed to know. There were no official statements, no clear explanation, only the feeling that something serious was happening behind those walls. And in places like this, silence travels quickly. People watched from their windows. They spoke in low voices from balconies. Every passing hour made the mystery feel heavier. Because when authorities arrive without explanation, people do not focus on what they can see. They focus on what they are not being told. Something was happening inside that house, and whatever it was important enough for the authorities to keep everyone else out. At first, people believed the police presence would disappear as quickly as it had arrived, a few hours, maybe a single day. But instead, the operation became even larger. More officers entered the area. Security around the house increased. The street was no longer just being watched, it was being controlled. Access was restricted. Neighbors were kept at a distance. People passing by slowed down, trying to understand what was happening behind the police barriers. Then came the moment that changed everything. They started digging. Not outside in the open, but inside the property itself. This was no ordinary search. There were no dramatic raids, no loud public announcements, no visible urgency that explained the scale of the operation. Instead, everything was careful, measured, quiet. That silence made it feel even stranger. People expected heavy machinery and fast results, but the work appeared controlled, almost surgical. Officials moved with unusual caution, as if whatever they were looking for could not be damaged, and that created a new question. What exactly were they expecting to find? As days passed, the mystery deepened. The excavation did not stop. 1 week became 2, then 3. By then, local curiosity had become national attention. News cameras arrived. Reporters gathered outside the street. Television programs began asking the same question everyone else was asking. What was hidden beneath that house? But answers were still missing. Authorities gave little information. Every statement felt incomplete. Some reports mentioned archaeological interest. Others hinted at something far more sensitive. Yet none of it explained why such secrecy was necessary. And the longer the digging continued, the harder it became to believe this was a simple investigation. Because ordinary excavations do not last for months. Ordinary houses do not require this level of silence. By now, everyone understood one thing. Whatever was under that house, someone believed it was important enough to keep the entire country guessing. When officials refuse to explain something, people create their own answers. And in Tarsus, the rumors spread faster than the excavation itself. At first, the simplest theory was gold. People believed hidden treasure had been buried beneath the house. Some said it was old family wealth, protected for generations. Others claimed it was something far older, valuable enough for the state to step in quietly. It was the kind of story that made sense to people. A secret operation, a hidden fortune, authorities trying to control what was found. But that was only the beginning. Soon, the rumors became bigger. Some believed the excavation was connected to ancient history. Tarsus is one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world. Its streets carry layers of civilizations, Roman, Byzantine, Ottoman, and far beyond. That history gave people another explanation. Maybe this was not treasure. Maybe it was something archaeological, a forgotten chamber, a buried tunnel, ancient remains hidden beneath modern walls. And if that were true, the secrecy made even more sense. But even that theory was not enough for everyone, because the longer the silence continued, the stranger the rumors became. Some whispered about underground passages linked to religious history. Others spoke of documents, hidden records, or state secrets buried decades earlier. There were even stories connecting the house to intelligence operations. No one could prove any of it, but everyone seemed to know someone who had heard the truth. That is how mysteries grow, not through facts, but through silence. Every unanswered question gave birth to another story. Every official refusal made the theories stronger. By now, the excavation was no longer just a local event. It had become a national obsession. Television debates, newspaper headlines, endless speculation. And still, the most important question remained untouched. If none of these stories were true, why did no one simply say so? Because sometimes what keeps a mystery alive is not the rumor itself, but the decision to let it continue. Months passed. The digging continued. No official answer came, and the longer the silence lasted, the harder it became to believe this was ever just about one house. At the center of all the rumors, all the cameras, and all the unanswered questions was one woman. The house belonged to an elderly woman who had lived there for years. She was not a public figure. She was not someone people expected to see at the center of a national mystery. And yet, suddenly, her home had become the most watched address in the country. Neighbors knew her as quiet, reserved, someone who lived an ordinary life in an ordinary street. That made the situation feel even stranger. Because people could understand a government building, a historical site, a hidden military zone, but an old woman's home, that was harder to explain. As public attention grew, so did the questions around her. Did she know what was beneath the house? Had she lived there for years without knowing? Or had the authorities come because of something connected to her past? Different reports suggested different answers. Some claimed she had allowed officials to enter willingly. Others said the process was far more complicated, but clear details were difficult to verify. And that uncertainty turned her into part of the mystery itself. People stopped talking only about the excavation. They started talking about her, who she was, what she knew, and whether the truth of the story had less to do with the ground beneath the house and more to do with the life inside it. But like everything else in Tarsus, the facts remained hidden behind silence. There were no full explanations, no final statement that answered the public's curiosity. Only fragments. And in those fragments, people built their own version of the woman at the center of it all. Some saw her as someone caught inside something much bigger than herself. Others believed she had always known that her ordinary house was never truly ordinary. By now, the excavation had lasted far longer than anyone expected. What began as a quiet police operation had turned into one of the most talked about mysteries in the country. And still, there were no clear answers. People kept asking the same question. What was found beneath that house? But every official response seemed designed to reveal as little as possible. Statements were short, careful, and frustratingly vague. Some reports suggested the excavation was related to archaeology. Others mentioned historical research, but none of it matched the level of security people had witnessed. If this was only about history, why the police barriers? Why the restricted access? Why months of silence? That gap between explanation and reality made trust disappear. The excavation eventually came to an end. The barriers were removed. The street reopened. Life, at least on the surface, returned to normal. But the mystery did not leave with the police, because ending the operation was not the same as explaining it. There was no dramatic public reveal, no press conference that settled the rumors, no final answer strong enough to replace the theories people had already accepted. And that may have been the strangest part of all. The country had watched for months. The media had followed every movement. People expected closure. Instead, they were left with silence. For many, that silence became the real story. Not what was found, but why no one seemed willing to say it. Because secrets often survive not because they are impossible to uncover, but because the people who know choose not to speak. Years have passed since the excavation in Tarsus. The police are gone. The barriers are gone. The street looks ordinary again. But the questions never disappeared. Even today, people still return to the same mystery. What was really beneath that house? Was it hidden treasure, an archaeological discovery, a forgotten tunnel beneath one of the oldest cities in the region? Or was the truth something far less dramatic, made larger only by silence and speculation? No single answer ever replaced the rumors. And that is why the story survived. Because mysteries are not remembered only for what happened, they are remembered for what never gets explained. The Tarsus excavation became more than a local event. It became a symbol of uncertainty, a story where official history and public belief never fully matched. Some people still believe something important was found and quietly removed. Others think the excavation revealed far less than people imagined, and the secrecy itself created the legend. Maybe the truth was buried underground, or maybe the real mystery was how quickly silence can turn into mythology. Because in the end, people do not remember the house for what stood above it. They remember it for what might have been hidden below. Some mysteries are solved, some are forgotten, and some remain alive because no one ever tells the full story. Next on True Echoes. The mystery in Tarsus was built on silence, on what people believed might be hidden underground. But sometimes, the darkest secrets are not buried beneath a house. Sometimes, they live inside a person. In Italy, during the years of war and fear, one woman became obsessed with protecting the only thing she believed mattered: her son. She believed fate was against him. She believed sacrifice could change destiny. And slowly, that belief turned into something far more dangerous. Neighbors saw an ordinary mother, a quiet woman, religious, superstitious, familiar. But behind closed doors, 3 women disappeared. And when the truth finally surfaced, it became one of the most disturbing cases in Italian history. Because this time, the question is not only what she did, but how far a mother can go when fear becomes faith. Next on True Echoes, Leonarda Cianciulli, the soap maker of Correggio. The truth coming soon on True Echoes. The mystery in Tarsus was never only about what might have been buried beneath one house. It became something larger than that. A story about silence, about unanswered questions, and about how uncertainty can survive longer than facts. Maybe something valuable was found, maybe nothing at all. But when an ordinary street is closed, when months of digging pass without real explanation, people remember the silence more than the answers. Because sometimes what keeps a mystery alive is not what was discovered, but what was never allowed to be explained. And in Tarsus, that silence is still part of the story. What do you think was really hidden beneath that house? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm listening. Subscribe and step into the echoes of truth. To be continued.